affirmation that we're going to jump into is 154 from the workbook lessons. And the affirmation is, I am among the ministers of God. Who's up for saying that? 1, 2, 3. I am among the ministers of God. Can you believe that you're among the ministers of God? Like, what was God thinking? That's what I think when I say that. I'm like, what was God thinking? Like, I am so not minister material. You know, I curse, I wear tube tops, like, I do bad things. And I'll tell you that. I'll tell you a story today about how I was not living up to that title. You know, so it's like, what does that mean? Well, A Course in Miracles, it says, let us but learn this lesson today, for we will not recognize what we receive until we give it. We have heard that this is said 100 ways and 100 times, and yet belief is lacking still. But this is sure, until belief is given, you will receive 1,000 miracles, and then receive 1,000 more. But will not know that God himself has left no gift beyond what you already have, nor has denied the teeniest of blessings to you. What can this mean to you until you have identified with him and with his own? So when you decide, I am a minister for God, it only requires that you do one thing, that you no longer see your brother's agenda as different from yours. And so when you begin to really see your brother's agenda as no different from yours, you begin to experience the blessings of that experience. So I am among the ministers of God. Then lesson 100 says, my part in God's plan is essential. So my part is essential in God's plan. It says for salvation, but we can substitute the word peace. So it says, you indeed are essential to God's plan. Without your joy, his joy is incomplete. Without your smile, the world cannot be saved. And while you are sad, the light that God himself appointed as the means to save the world is dim and lusterless, and no one laughs because all laughter can but echo yours. So that's an amazing thing to think about, that as ministers of God, we have also been given our gospel. Our gospel is all is well. Our gospel is a happy gospel. You know, the first gospel of the good news was given by Mary Magdalene when she went to the cave. She said, what the heck's going on? Where is my Lord? And she saw Jesus, and he said, be not afraid. Go send the gospel. Christ is risen. We get to continue to say that in whatever way that we're called to say it. And basically we're saying, nothing's wrong here. Everything's okay. I wanted to give you an actual practice for gratitude, and I use this practice all the time. It's a really funny little practice that I actually learned in Hollywood, and I still use it in Holy World. And thank you. And I'm pretty sure that this one little practice is responsible for 99% of my happiness. And it's funny because it's really simple, and it turns out I have been doing it my whole life. Now you can use it all the time, and you probably do use it all the time. You probably already do this as well. Does anyone want to guess what it is?
Meditation.
No,
Yes.
that's a good one.
Gratitude.
No.
Yes. Laughter.
What?
Laughter.
Good one. Okay, I'll tell you. Do you want any more clues?
Sure.
Okay, it happens at the end of a show. A bow. Thank you. A bow. So God, I love to play games. Thanks for playing. So I was reminded of this yesterday because I went to see Will's show. And Will's doing this show, Things to Not Do, that he wrote a couple of years ago. And the thing about Will, if you don't know, he's really picky about the end of the show bows. Like, if it's not done well, he's like, why? Why couldn't they do a decent bow? So he actually starts rehearsing his bows before he even starts rehearsing the shows. I'm not kidding. And if you go to a show, you'll see his bows are extravagant. Like, they're orchestrated, they're choreographed, and they're on point. You know what I mean? And so I got to see his bow and his their bow. And the show that he wrote is called Things to Not Do, and it was based off this game that our son Liam made. And Liam, if you don't know, he's on the Asperger spectrum. And so when he was little, we spent a lot of time saying to him, Liam, don't do that. Liam, don't do that. Liam, don't do that. You know, and so he finally made this game to help him navigate his life called Things to Not Do. The slogan was, may the worst man win. So we love that he took this thing that was hanging him up and he turned it into something creative. And so Will took that idea and wrote this play, and so it's inspired by that game. Those Things to Not Do. So I like the idea of bowing. You know, I like the idea of using that as a spiritual tool. And back in the day, my spiritual teacher told me, don't get out of bed on your feet, get out on your knees. And I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but to start off the day tucking your chin and bowing your head and hitting your knees. And so that's how I get out of bed, and it's not something that I was always consistent with, but I can say I'm consistent with it now. And when I get out of bed on my knees, then I say the third step prayer, which we shared with you last month, which God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me what you will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them will bear witness to those that I would help of thy power, thy glory, and thy way of life. So it's a surrender prayer, and I bow and I kneel and I surrender my day. It's a powerful way of saying, like, you're large and in charge, not me. I'm not driving the ship. So don't count on me for that, because I'm not driving it. I'm God's wingman. Can you believe you're God's wingman? So when you are God's wingman, you're flying with the divine. And it's so much better not to grab the wheel back from God, because God will take you to places that you didn't know to go. And it's kind of like when you were in college and your dad came to visit you. And when we went down to visit our kids in college, Billy would be like, we can go to this cheap place, and we'd be like, no, we're going out. And it was like, we're going to take you someplace you can't go while you're in college. And that's how God is with us. Like, we always want to underestimate God's capabilities, and God's like, we're flying the red carpet. So it's best to bow. Bowing is also a way of saying thank you. It's a way of showing respect. It's a way of greeting or a salutation. There's a book that was written called The Sacred Art of Bowing by Andy Young, and she says in the book that from black belt to ballet, to priests to monks, we all genuflect to our divine. And in every day and in every way we can practice this. And that bowing is alive and well. And it's a beautiful practice to pause and to bow in humility, to turn our eyes inward. It helps us to surrender our agendas and to connect with each other on a human level. And yes, it's a surrender, and yes, it's a thank you, and yes, it's a really good practice. Even to think about the idea of bowing to inanimate objects that you work with, to have an appreciative encounter with your book and your bed and your yoga mat, to say thank you to these things that you work with, to say, hello, dear friend, thank you so much for being part of my life, which might sound a little bit crazy, but, as it turns out, it actually is a way to generate gratitude. If you're a baker, you might say, like, thank you for my pots and for my spices. There are people who are bakers who don't have those things. If you are a musician, like, thank you for this instrument that I get to work with. When Liam was little, he used to play the violin, not really play, I don't know what he did, but it was interesting what was happening there. But he would open up his violin case and he would look in at this beautiful instrument and he would say, hello, my beauty. Oh, wow. I know. And that was playing enough for me. So it might sound crazy, but greeting all things with Namaste. The definition of Namaste, Namas means to bow, and Te means you. So we're literally saying, I bow to you. And the more embellished version of that interpretation is the light within me bows to the light within you. But basically we're saying, I surrender to you. I'm taking the time to be here with you. I see you. I'm with you. To bow to your major relationships and gratitude is a beautiful thing to be able to practice. There's something passive and yet powerful about it, isn't there? In the Course in Miracles, it says our vulnerability is our strength. So it feels the same way, that our vulnerability is actually the thing that makes us stronger, and it's the last thing the ego wants us to pull. It wants us to go through the world fighting. So it's a simple pose that can help invoke the sacred in the mundane. And this is the time for us to churn up that ability to bring sacred to our experiences, because we're moving into the darkness, and sacredness can help bring a greater degree of light. Simple act and practice can cause this kind of sweet vibration throughout your day. And so practice it. Like, see what it feels like to bow. Helping yourself to bow down helps your divine to rise up. And we might think, like, I don't want to do that. That's weird, and I don't want to get small. Bowing down doesn't mean getting smaller. Surrendering doesn't mean that you get less. It means you actually can have more. Think about the ocean. The ocean is the lowest thing. It's the, when we go to water level, it bows down to all of the land. And because it does, it receives everything from all the lakes and the streams. And when we go to the ocean, we think this is powerful. like it's a powerful body of water. And we come before the ocean, and so we should approach the ocean, all of those things that seem powerful and overwhelming to us, in the same way. We should get small with it and allow ourselves to use that medicine of the mouse as opposed to the eagle, and to really get to the specifics of it, because what we're known to do when we're facing something in fear is we want to come at it and get bigger. But really, you and I have both seen ourselves get to the ocean, and what do? We dive into the ocean. We tuck our chin and bow our heads, right? And in that way, we're in harmony with the ocean as opposed to in conflict with the ocean. This is the same thing when we meet some sort of trauma or something that scares us, is that what we should do is the same thing that we do when we come to the ocean. Tuck your chin and dive right in. If you tuck your chin first, you're saying, like, I've tucked my chin to God. You know, so I am now pre-authorized to deal with anything that comes my way. So we can all practice first tucking our chin and then being confident about diving in. And that confidence can come from a place of, like, I know that there's nothing to fear when I go with God. Bowing to somebody that you love and care for, or making time for people that you love and care for, is easy. But when we come to people that we don't like, who agitate us, or even like those less fortunate than us, like homeless people, we don't stop to savor. Homeless people have become very unsavorable in our society. I'm so grateful that we're going to be collaborating with Beds again, with thanks to Peg and to Erin, who runs Beds, which is a community over in the bridge in Brookfield, where they help, you know, homeless veterans and other people to find a home. And actually a beautiful home. We took a tour over there, and it's like they get to have a home. You know, we're going to be bringing them meals again this year and also collecting for them. We haven't specifically decided on
I'll have it next week. I'll have them sign up.
Okay, great. So a few years ago we did bags for them. It just helps us to remember that we're all a part of the human experience and that we're responsible for each other. That's no small thing. The first thing that happens when somebody becomes homeless is that people stop making eye contact with them. They say you become invisible. So I want to tell you, like I said earlier, like I'm among ministers of God, like how not to do it. Because I've had the experience of how not to do it. I had such a great classroom a couple of years ago. And what happened was we had just left church, and I was taking my kids to the architectural tour, and they were pretty little at the time, so it must have been like one of the earlier years of being here. And we were late. We ran out, got in the car, we drove in there, we were late. We go running up Lakeshore Drive or whatever street we were running up, and Liam was with us, and we hadn't really been exposed to too many homeless people. But he saw this homeless man sitting on a curb, and he had a cup, and Liam just was like, and he was like, Mom, Dad, we gotta help him, And I was like, it's cold, like, we're late. Not my proudest moment, but that's what I said. I'm like, we're late, we'll figure it out later, you know, we'll figure it out later. And I was like, come on, we gotta go. So we go running up the block, and we have all these kids, and I could still feel that he's pretty agitated by it, but my goal was my goal. It was not God's goal. I was in my goal. And so we get to the boat, and we miss the boat. Literally, figuratively, and spiritually. So we come walking back down the street, we cross the same street, we go start approaching the same block that this guy's on, and he's all the way at the end of the block. And Liam takes off like a shot, and he starts running towards this homeless man. And Will and I are like, where's he going? And the street was really crowded, so it was easy for him to get through, but harder for us. So we're like, running after him, we're screaming, and we're trying to get to him. Liam, come back, and he's running. And we just see through the crowds that he gets all the way to the homeless man. And it was really cold that day. And he takes his jacket off, and he hands it to the guy, because that's all he has. He didn't have anything else. So he takes the jacket off of himself. And then I see the homeless guy sort of shaking his head at Liam. And all of a sudden, everyone who's walking past us is saying, oh my gosh, did you see that? That little kid gave his jacket to the homeless guy. Oh my gosh, did you see that little kid? So we heard this news coming back at us again and again. And I felt like both proud and mortified. I was like, so I start to walk towards this guy, and he stands up, and he picks Liam up, and he starts walking towards us. And he has like tears in his eyes, and he's smiling. And he's like, this is a good little man. You have raised such a good little man. And I'm thinking, oh man, he's raising me right now, because this is not how it was supposed to go, obviously. He gave us Liam back, and we put Liam down and we had a nice exchange with him. And I remember that it had an effect on me. So I know now that we work with homeless people, like I really feel like, you know, to have an engagement, to make the time to have the engagement with people. And I made a promise to myself that I would do that, you know, that I wouldn't be the person to walk by anymore. It's not easy. It's really not easy, but it really is important. I wanted to make that a part of our call to action, that we take the time during the holiday to bow down. You know, sometimes I talk about the similarities between the word bow and bow. If we want to put a bow on this holiday season and make it really nice and special for everybody, but we're not actually bowing to the sacredness in our brother, what's it all for? You know, really, what's it all for? You know, like, are we going to continue to paint our houses and our picket fences and not actually be in a unity with everyone and everything? Because now is the time that we're supposed to wake up. This is the time when we actually get to be spiritual warriors and miracle workers. And so, you know, imagine if I were to be walking in the street and the homeless man was there, and that if I could take my coat off and give it to him. And what would be the big problem if I walked the world a little bit with feeling cold? Because I actually don't think I would. And you know, you hear Tony Robinson helping people walk across fire so they can feel like the man and the manifesto. But we're not here to do that. We're here to be the miracle worker. And it would be really audacious for us to test the limits of our capability and our discomfort zones, because I don't think we even know what discomfort is. I think we got high-level problems here. I know I do. So sometimes this season, if you see someone that you feel is in need and you feel that you're being asked to extend, if you will take time to slow down and to speak up and to make time, and that when the moment comes, I want to invite you to remember to bow to that moment, not like I did, but make how Liam did and maybe how I'm ready to. You will not receive your full due until you experience what it feels like to give it away. When it said this morning that we are ministers of God, it says you'll know that when you're ready to give it away, and then you'll recognize that you actually have it. Like, that's the powerful equation in a miracle worker. And then you'll know how very, very blessed you are. Every single thought that we have in regards to this is rooted in neither love or fear. Just notice that when you approach the situation, you're going to feel that fear come up and say, I don't want to engage here. You know, it's easier to roll the window and lock the door. And your intentions, you know, you always follow your internal teacher. It will guide you. But if you find that you're just, you know, doing it because you don't have time, and your internal teacher is sincerely saying to you to slow down, to really see if you can get past that discomfort zone and really allow yourself to lean in a little bit. And when we focus on that full-blown gratitude that includes everyone, we'll experience that experience of limitless joy and true happiness and actual laughter. And that's the gospel that we're supposed to be bringing forward. God's will for you is perfect happiness. That's what the Course in Miracles says. You know, God's will for us is perfect happiness. But we won't know that if we keep coming to it from a stingy place of I gotta hoard mine and get mine before I extend it. Your true happiness actually comes from extending. So I'm going to invite us to let our gratitude and all of our actions be drenched in this joy. Let there be impeccable thanks in all of our giving, so that by the time we're done with this holiday season, we might be the best man wins. And so that's the word.